Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on your SmackDown spoilers. Main event has already happened, so that's not a spoiler anymore. And some wrestling news around the world. If you haven't heard, CM Punk is no longer with TNA or WWE. Cleve Scene has an article up about the disappearance of a banner for the retired Cavaliers player Austin Carr from the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. The banner went missing during sometime between the Monday Night Raw event and the next morning. Randy Orton has been reportedly quietly taking acting lessons, hoping to improve his overall connectability with the crowd, having had trouble recently remembering his lines and promos and flubbing on live TV. Most famously a few years back when he forgot his lines mid-speech and had to turn around and step away from the camera and ask Sheamus what his lines was in an in-ring promo. Orton hopes to take a similar path to out-of-ring friend John Cena and become an actor in the near future. Thus, 12 rounds was his first movie. Holly attended CM Punk's Q&A session at the Wizard World Convention in Portland, Oregon on Friday and sent the following report. He was at Punk's Portland's Comic-Con and didn't feel the need to relay the info until he departed from WWE. There are two key parts of his Q&A that stand out in retrospect. One, he was very upset about Batista getting the WrestleMania main event, which pretty much spoiled the Royal Rumble. He clarified he was friends with Dave and that they would not be happy, but he wanted to be honest and it was Daniel Bryan's year. Actually, he said Bryan Danielson, real name, but corrected quickly. He was very disinterested in the current product. Asked about promos, he defeatedly made comments like, I show up, sometimes tell me what to do, and I just go out and do it, and then leave. He implied his recent work was not good, and was down to only using 2 moves a match. Punk was very nice, engaged, and happy with his fans, but in regards to wrestling and WWE, he was definitely despondent and unhappy. Punk has been down on WWE and his own performance for months now, so this is very consistent with what he has been telling friends. Punk's frustration over Batista getting the WrestleMania main event is no surprise. As he was initially critical of The Rock getting WrestleMania main events as well. Well, he's not blind in the sense that many of us felt that Bryan winning the Rumble and going on to challenge for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 30 was the obvious choice to make. TMZ Sports is reporting that CM Punk left Monday Night Raw because he is upset over Batista winning the Royal Rumble and going on to headline WrestleMania. TMZ stated that Punk feels that he should be headlining Mania after the work that he has put in over the past year and not be facing Triple H as scheduled, as planned. And you can read more at the TMZ. I guess I'll post the link. And TMZ is also quoted by sources and not CM Punk directly to keep that in mind. The story is only going to get bigger as time rolls forward. And I'm very interested to see how WWE and live crowds respond now that this has made its way to TMZ. The story also notes that Punk is very seriously about his decision and has no plans to return. We'll have more as the story continues to develop. TMZ is reporting that Matt Hardy and Reby Sky has had domestic violence incident that occurred early New Year's Day morning, stemming from Reby Sky questioning Matt Hardy about his sobriety. Matt completed WWE-sponsored rehab in 2012 after spiraling out of control and by all accounts has been sober since then. So he says, but TMZ source stated Matt appeared to be intoxicated prior to the fight. And you can read more at this link on TMZ. The story noted that Matt and Reby Sky talked about the incident the day after and decided to work through the problems. Let's all hope that this is the last we hear of any more incidents like this. Back to CM Punk as he was pulled from advertising for the future of events. From the WWE live events web, from the page itself, ProWrestling.net has confirmed a WrestlingObserver.com report that Punk told Vince McMahon on Monday that he was going home and then did so. So it had to be after his little segment on Raw, which led the company removing Punk from all advertising as WWE did not respond to a request for comment before the story was published. And the news, thanks to .net reader Ken. Punk was slated to face Triple H at WrestleMania 30. I mentioned earlier. It was mentioned earlier on PW Torch Livecast that it seemed like the plan changed to Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. I have since been told that Bryan versus Hunter is indeed the new plan for WrestleMania 30. At this point, it is unclear whether the shift to Bryan versus Triple H had something to do with Punk's decision to go home or if that change has been made as a result of Punk leaving. The WWE released CM Punk Best in the World documentary that has disappeared from Netflix earlier today, according to .net reader Brandon Wilson and Nick Beckron. The timing is certainly interesting, but there's no way of knowing whether this is a coincidence or simply because Netflix adds and pulls content without notice. While CM Punk is still being advertised for the Elimination Chamber, it may appear on some other advertisements for upcoming live events. Word is that he will eventually be pulled from those ads as well. In the last week, two different people with knowledge of Punk's situation have noted that he was as good as gone from WWE when his deal expired in July, and one person said that it didn't expect him to even last until July. Regarding Punk talking to Vince McMahon at Raw before he went home, word now is that Punk didn't see Vince until 7:30 p.m. As earlier reports said that Vince had the creative team start rewriting Raw just after 6 p.m. when he found out Punk was leaving. The reason for Kofi Kingston versus Alberto Del Rio match was on Raw and went so long is because it came during the period that it was laid out for Punk's segment, and the match had to go a second segment to cover that time frame. There has been a working assumption within WWE Creative for several weeks that Punk was leaving in July and would not sign a new deal anyway. Sheamus will be replacing Punk at all SmackDown tapings, where Punk was largely advertised as the main star. An update.net reader Joseph Ehoff wrote that to say that he tried to watch the documentary last week and it was no longer an option on Netflix this week. In other words, it may have not been pulled last result of today. I haven't even seen it online on Netflix at all on my membership page. So I don't even know if it was ever even on there. Speaking on Punk, they noted earlier that ESPN Cleveland reporter Casey Koulos reported the following about a backstage argument with CM Punk they had with WWE officials at Raw. My info on CM Punk, I do know from sources that at Raw in CLE there was heated exchange backstage between Punk and staff. Topic was concussion. Punk was heard arguing with staff saying, "I passed all your damn concussion tests, and I'm not going out telling fans anything else." That's BS. In regards to that story, Punk was banged up in the Royal Rumble match on Sunday and did take a concussion test on Monday, but it showed that he did not have any concussion. The concussion test had nothing to do with his departure. WWE has offered a contract To international wrestling star Prince Devitt, as he is expected to make a decision within the next 2 weeks. Devitt recently won the American Wrestling Roadshow title and had a press release announcing the change referred to him as WWE bound. Well, as that being said, well, he was at backstage last at the TNA's live event from Dublin on their overseas tour on the first night, and seen in a photo below on his Twitter account making plans to take over the world again. Hashtag Bullet Club, and then hashtag Bad Influence, at Fact Daniels, and at Frank Kazarian. Pic.twitter.com / well, I'll post that. Prince Devitt, you can search for him at Fergal Devitt. FERGALDEVITT. And that was posted on January 29th, 2013. F4W Online reports that Devitt is not expected to sign with TNA because he wouldn't give up his lucrative spot with New Japan Wrestling for a company like TNA. Kevin Nash, Big Sexy, tweeted about Daniel Bryan being left out of the Royal Rumble and CM Punk leaving WWE. As he said, Bryan wasn't going to win the Rumble. He gets tossed out. His fantastic base would be more upset than him not in it at all. Just my opinion. Punk's beat up and burnt out. Works his ass off. Phil is a very smart guy. He may just need to decompress. Mick Foley also tweeted about Punk. I know that CM Punk has been frustrated for quite some time. To his great credit, he never let that prevent him from giving less than 100%. You're right at Trackdown. My message about CM Punk was a little confusing. Quite simply, be it on pay-per-view, TV, or house show, he always gave 100%. Finally, Dolph Ziggler chimed in and says he's not going anywhere, at least for a year. He tweeted, "Keep voicing your opinions at WWE Universe, but please stop asking me if I'm going to quit. It's annoying, and I still have a year left of my contract." But he didn't say contract, he just said he had a year left. He only have a mean contract. Okay, the next WWE tryout camp at the Performance Center in Orlando is scheduled for March. They have already contacted talent to come in. WWE live event on January 24th in State College, Pennsylvania, drew 3,500 fans. The January 25th live event in Canton, Ohio, drew 2,500 fans. WWE announced 15,715 fans won a Royal Rumble in Pittsburgh, but a sellout crowd of just over 12,000 attended. Brock Lesnar is not scheduled to wrestle another match until The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30. Matt Hardy and his wife, Reby Sky, aka Rebecca Hardy, was arrested on January 1st in Emporia, Virginia on assault and battery charges. The couple was staying at a Hampton Inn when a fight between them all allegedly broke out. Both parties obtained restraining orders against one another. Again, according to TMZ, and I reported earlier in this video, the couple was married on October 5th, 2013. Hardy's issue with substance abuse were well chronicled as they led to multiple arrests before he went to WWE-sponsored rehab. Hardy and Reby have yet to comment on the matter since the arrest story broke. However, they have engaged one another many times on Twitter in a physical manner. Matt I think I did it. We did it twice. Okay. More details to the story of Matt Hardy and Reby Hardy's January 1st arrest on assault and battery charges have come out. TMZ obtained the 911 call from the hotel staffer who told the operator that a guest just came down here and said somebody's beating the hell out of his wife, a girl or something. Listen to the 911 call at TMZ.com. As previously noted, the couple has issued plenty of tweets that have showed that they have reconciled since that incident. It's worth noting that while the staffer relayed what he was told, there is no word yet as to who or what started the incident. Neither Matt nor Reby have issued any direct public comments on the matter at the time of this update. The dark main event from tonight's SmackDown was CM Punk versus The Shield in a handicap match. Well, that wasn't tonight, it was Tuesday night. Just now getting the news out. It's likely dated at advertising on the Arena website, but it does list Mark Henry as appearing on the show. As far as Punk being removed, there you go. Covered by the saying card subject to change. First Wrestling's WrestlePalooza 3 event will take place on Friday, March 14th in Minneapolis, Minnesota at First Avenue. The promotion hasn't announced any details about the show, but you can keep up with their updates at facebook.com/pages/first-wrestling /240079265547. Promoter's name is Eric Cannon. It has a track record of putting on good events, and I recommend the fans in the Twin Cities check this out. Featured match for WWE main event was Alberto Del Rio versus R-Truth. Former TNA wrestler Wes Brisco and Hall of Famer Jerry Brisco are now available for bookings. Contact Bill Behrens at sbibookings.com. Former TNA wrestler Shark Boy, a.k.a. Dean Roll, turned 39 years old. He was born January 28, 1975. And former WWE wrestler Bob Hardcore Holly, a.k.a. Robert Howard, turned 51. He was born January 29, 1963. Raw will air live in Australia starting next week. Tuesday in Australia at 12 p.m. Eastern, I guess it's EDT, whatever time it is over there. Raw normally airs 24 hours later in Australia on Fox 8, where SmackDown actually airs first in Australia before airing in the United States. And you can read the official announcement at fox8.tv/shows/WWE. Thanks to .net reader Steven. The Superstars of Wrestling, The Rising, is in Spotswood, New Jersey at the Knights of Columbus, 30 Crescent Avenue, with WWE Hall of Famer Coco Beware, Salvatore Sincere, Justin Credible, Nunzio, Rhino, and Sanjay Dutt. For more details on the show, visit facebook.com/events/605-146-149-553-054. Former WWE star King Kong Bundy and sports writer Jack McAfee were named the broadcast team for the World Extreme Entertainment event that takes place on April 12th in Broomall, Pennsylvania at the Marple Sports Arena. The show is headlined by Sandman versus former boxing world champion Tim Witherspoon. The group held a press conference last week. Check out a recap of the insanity at Philly.com. Japanese star Kenta, aka Kenta Kobayashi, is getting a WWE tryout at the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida this week, as ProWrestling.net has confirmed. I was told that Kenta wrapped up a NOAH tour over the weekend and immediately made the overseas trip to the WWE Performance Center. And wasn't there a guy in WCW with the same name? Former the World Heavyweight Champion Christian will return on SmackDown's show, as you will hear later in this video. As a video package promoted his return during Monday's Raw, Christian was sidelined by a shoulder injury and a concussion issues as well. So it's good to see he's finally been cleared. And here's the results for your SmackDown, along with the results from the main event. Detailed report for SmackDown from Toledo, including a complaint about CM Punk not appearing as advertised. First report, thanks to Matthew Archibald, who didn't know how they taped the shows. From the Huntington Center, it's a fantastic venue for wrestling, minus the behind-the-scenes seats. There's not a bad seat in the house unless you count every single floor seat in the place. Why do floor seats cost so much? They should give them away for free on the radio stations. The worst events I've ever attended were floor seats. I tell you which events those were, but I couldn't see anything and I don't remember much about them. Tonight I had the $15 seats, and I'm convinced I had the best seats in the house. I'm personally thrilled that the WWE came back to do a TV taping in Toledo. The crowd was very hot. The town is fully of true fans. And as an informal suburb to Detroit, there is a rich wrestling history here that can't be ignored. Huntington Center was recently voted the #1 venue in the Midwest, and I completely agree. Tonight's show was 95% full, and considering the temperature was -6 degrees, and there were snow emergencies in effect, I think it was a fantastic turnout. Definitely a sellout. They opened the lines up at 6:15 for a 7 o'clock curtain. They don't advertise this, and many folks were complaining as they had been in line since 4 p.m. To avoid a few hundred angry fans, WWE should give better instructions for their events. One more tip to ticket holders could be that if you want souvenirs, make sure you show up early, push a shove like a herd of cattle, form your own line, defend your position with your life, and when you finally get a hold of your shirt that don't fit because your size is all sold out, make sure you know how to add properly, because the bozos running the souvenir stands probably can't do it themselves. If they would simply set up queues, it would make the process far less intimidating, confusing, and upsetting. I saw a grandmother tell her young grandson, "I can't tell where the line is, and I don't want to deal with that mess, so we won't get you a damn thing tonight." Poor kid. Dark match prior to the tapings. Tyson Kidd versus the rookie coming in from NXT, Alexander Rusev, who you saw in the Royal Rumble itself. I'm quite sure that this was not taped for the main event. There were no commentators, and it used a SmackDown apron. After the match, the commentators came out, and the apron was changed to main event. Tyson Kidd came out to a surprisingly big pop, but the first star of the night usually does. Lana came out and said several things in Russian. Who knows what, and who cares, as long as she looks and sounds good saying it. And then Rusev came out. He almost got a positive reaction, it seemed, until the crowd realized that he's the bad guy. So he got minor heat. My family was excited because he looked like a beast in the Royal Rumble, or Rumble Rubbish, as we declared it to be. And to see him so soon afterwards made it very special. It was a good back and forth match, the crowd chanting, "Let's go Tyson," loudly and often. I expected a squash match, assuming that they want this guy to come off as a monster, but it was actually a very technical performance. It looked like they were polishing him up, working in front of a crowd bigger than 40 or so who seemed to show up at the NXT tapings. On that note, I'd like to see NXT give away free tickets for their events, or figure out what to do to boost attendance. They put on an excellent show, but they need to pull in bigger crowds, see what really works in terms of pop and heat. Maybe the WWE Network will finally give them an avenue where we can regularly watch them and keep up with that what's happening down there. Minor league baseball and hockey doesn't quite carry the prestige of the big show, but it's full of skill, hard work, true talent, who just haven't caught a break. I'm excited to start watching it again. Back to the match. I can't remember the last time I saw a decent camel clutch applied. but Rusev did just that for the win. I was impressed by the whole match. The crew came out to switch the apron and set up for the main event. Did the crowd know this? I did because I've been to several events, but they don't update the crowd as to what's happening. Maybe if they play music or commercials or try to pump up the crowd with some random chants or something, the crowd will stay into it. Not everybody there is a wrestling fan. Not everybody there has been to 100 events. Not everybody there knows how things work. Keep them entertained, and if not, at least keep them informed. I had to explain to those around me several times that that's what's going on because there was just darkness, silence, and nothing going on. And to your main event tapings is R-Truth versus Alberto Del Rio. R-Truth came out to a pretty good pop. ADR made his entrance to a fair heat, but not a lot. Personally liked him better as a face, but I may be in the minority there. My last name isn't McMahon, so my opinion doesn't matter anyways. A very good match, though it got pretty sloppy. A lot of back and forth as R-Truth can still work a crowd like a master. Hearing thousands of people yelling "What's up" still gets me going. I was 2 matches into the night and my voice was already getting a little hoarse. The match went a little long. I'd be surprised if they didn't edit it for TV. Del Rio got the win. There was some backstage banter going on between 6 divas, Natalya, Tamina, the Bellas, and who knows else. Does anyone really pay attention anymore? Especially divas matches? I'm an 80s kid and I miss the Glow Girls. I'm hoping the network gives the divas their own show, storylines, characters, etc. I'd love to watch a divas show with deep storylines, but they somehow never seem to fit into Raw, SmackDown, or any other TV show. Bret Hart's music Natalya's music, and the place went bonkers. Quite possibly the 3rd biggest pop of the night. Maybe 4th. Then AJ was out with Tamina. My girls love to see AJ. They idolize her, seeing her as a heel, though she's very good at it, or excellent. Seems a waste to me, as was heel Punk, heel Ryback, heel Orton, heel Ziggler, heel Miz, heel etc. To me, a superstar that can truly pop a crowd and bring a tear to the eye of a kid who's seeing him for the first time, like Brian is right now, shouldn't be wasted. They are so hard to find. I still remember the first time when I saw Hogan live, Halloween Havoc '94, steel cage with Ric Flair, Mr. T, guest referee. I was bawling like a baby. I met my hero that day, and that's something truly special. Don't waste all of that hard work and magic on a lousy heel turn. Match number 2, Tamina versus Natalya. AJ hits the commentator's table and puts on a headset. A fair match that Natalya won clean. Afterwards, AJ blindsided her and laid the SmackDown on her. Bunker Daxel's music played and they hit, and the crowd went wild again. They rescued Natalya. She hobbled backstage selling a knee injury. A pre-taped interview with Triple H and Michael Cole ran, and they were told that Rhodes will face the New Age Outlaws in a steel cage on Raw. So that's set up for next week. The crowd seemed very excited at this. Lots of chatter there. The Usos came out to a loud pop for their match. I love old school style themed tag teams. Demolition, Killer Bees, Rockers, etc. Something we just don't have enough of nowadays. Big E Langston came out next to a surprisingly loud and raucous pop. Something I truly didn't expect. I had no idea he was so over with the crowds. I have to admit that I was not a Big E fan, but after the show he put on tonight, I am now on his team. The music for the 3-man band hit and the crowd was silent. No cheers, no boos. I actually enjoyed watching them. I think they're underrated and the company needs some jobbers, but this crowd was not impressed. Match number 3 for the show, the Usos and Big E Langston versus 3MB 6-man tag match was very fun to see. Lots of back and forth as the Usos are a blast to watch. It reminds me of a mix between the Rockers and the Wild Samoans. Lots of energy, as I mentioned. The biggest surprise was Big E. He was all over the place, flying through the air, and I had no idea he could move like that. Near the end of the match, there was a melee. All three faces pinned 3MB at the same time for a triple pin to win. Afterwards, all three did a dance for the crowd. Big E had some moves, and when he started to stir the pot, the crowd broke out laughing and cheering. Way, way over. And so was the main event. And that concludes the main event taping. For results, the crew started to transform the SmackDown apron as Michael Cole came out to a well-deserved pop. He is definitely the hardest working man in the business next to Daniel Bryan. Nearly the same pop for JBL, but a little toned down. JBL held a fan sign that JBL for president. And the crowd cheered for him. Lillian Garcia's music hit, and other than a few wolf whistles, nothing much more than that. She's more Fink than Fink. A flashback to the last Raw we played. Stephanie McMahon talked about the Elimination Chamber. The Shield music hit, and they came out of their usual place. There was a lot of excitement in the crowd, but not exactly to a pop. Certainly no heat. They started having a conversation that we couldn't completely understand because the sound system was so much bass in it. We got the general idea. Ambrose and Reigns got into a scuffle, but Seth woke them up and talked some sense into them. Vicky Guerrero came out to a massive heat. The boos were so loud I literally didn't understand a single word she said. I bet you could only understand, "Excuse me!" Triple H came out and interrupted her. He got a very nice pop considering the character he's playing right now. Triple H told the Shield to forget about what happened on Raw, but they were not having it. It was announced that the Shield will face the Wyatt family at Elimination Chamber. Match number 5, if they include the matches from the main event, would be first match of SmackDown. Dolph Ziggler versus Antonio Cesaro. Ziggler comes out to a decent pop. I had a few tears in my eye because he wasn't advertised to be there, and he is my daughter's absolute favorite. She was wearing his shirt and made signs for him, but knew he wouldn't be there. When his music hit, she got so excited I knew she was having her Hogan moment. Antonio Cesaro came out, and then you could hear somebody sneeze at the other end of the arena. Absolute silence. I'm a fan of his. He's got a talent that's being ignored. I truly had no idea how physically big he was. I've seen him live before, but for some reason never noticed his mass. He has a Christopher Daniels looking body to me with the long neck and all, but he could easily be considered a big man. Antonio did the spinning helicopter to win it, and the crowd actually cheered for him and counted as he scrambled Ziggler's freshly rested brains. My daughter wasn't even upset that Dolph lost. She was still glowing just from seeing him. I wish him well and hope he gets back to his full form shortly. They announced the main event tonight was Bryan, Sheamus, and Mysterio versus the Shield, and the crowd cheered. They loved knowing that Daniel Bryan is in the house and started a mild yes chant. Match number 2 for SmackDown. Xavier Woods versus Fandango, as Woods came out with R-Truth and got the crowd chanting, but not really in any kind of pop. Fandango came out, and the crowd went all Izod Center, and dude, their happy little hearts out. I guess their little dance or whatever. A pretty boring match. The crowd wasn't into it at all. I think Fandango does a pretty good job. but nobody seemed to be paying attention. Fandango won as R-Truth hit his finisher, and then they danced afterwards. Ryback and Curtis Axel versus the Primetime Players was next, as Ryback and Axel came out to a very, very mild reaction. I would think Ryback, even as a heel, would get a bigger reaction than that. I guess he's just not over in his current form, and Curtis Axel, well, nobody's perfect. Primetime Players came out to a mild reaction, but definitely positive reaction. I actually like watching them, but I'm waiting for Vince to finally drop the hammer on Darren Young for coming out. I wouldn't put discrimination on Vince, but he's made it pretty clear, at least to me, that there's no place for homosexuality in the locker room. Does anybody remember the chaos the Phil Donahue, Pat Patterson stuff caused in the 90s? I'm pretty big on equal rights myself, and was excited to see Darren's career after his coming out, but feared the worst. Their mild but steady push came to a halt a few months ago, and tonight the whole show finally came crashing down. It was a squash match. PTP never had a chance. Darren was the guy who got manhandled. He busted his mouth open and was bleeding from somewhere. They got on the mic afterwards, and Darren said, "We're a team. We're like brothers. We're family." Titus came back and said, "Family? We ain't family. Ever since partnering with you, I've been a loser. I wanted it all, a championship, and with you, I'm nothing." He then kicked the crap out of Darren, embarrassing him, really. He stomped him and threw him around like a rag doll. I always thought Titus would do well on his own. I only hope they give Darren a chance to do something. In fact, I'd go so far as saying I'll be absolutely upset if they kick him off the roster. His coming out shouldn't open the doors for him, but it shouldn't close them either. And you're returning Christian versus Jack Swagger. Christian came out to a medium-sized pop, but people seemed confused and really not into it. Jack Swagger came out to a minor heat, but surprisingly got the crowd to yell, "We the people," a few times. A very weird match. Swagger at least got twice the size of Christian, and they just didn't look right together. A pretty forgettable match. It's nice to see Christian back, but he needs to stay within his own class. And there was no announcing of a winner, so I guess Swagger won. Match number 9, according to the reporter, Kofi Kingston versus Damien Sandow, as Kofi came out to a nice pop. Soft entrance with good reaction. Damien Sandow came out and drew some pretty good, decent heat. A pretty forgettable match that everybody was so excited to see. Kofi, lots of chatter. Why aren't they pushing Kofi again? He may not sell tickets, but he sells toys, and the kids absolutely love him. We can't ignore the next generation of fans. Next match was Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus the New Age Outlaws. A nice reaction to the Rhodes. Pretty much over. Another Raw flashback airing, and then Triple H discussed the Cage rematch on Raw for next week. The New Age Outlaws came out and did their typical entrance and introductions. I got 2 words for you. Nice match. A very good match, but over quickly. Cody got a clean pin on Road Dogg. A guy next to me told his wife, "I hope that was the last match." Meaning they was about to go home. She said, "I know, I expected more. They don't tell you what's going on. It's so confusing. It's not like I expected. Maybe they were being unrealistic, but I agree to a point." The Shield versus Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, and Rey Mysterio was your main event. The Shield entered to an excited reaction. We knew that Daniel Bryan was coming. The white screen hits and Bray gives a little speech, but again, it's hard to understand what was said in the arena because of the heavy bass and the sound system. A huge pop for Sheamus. Toledo loves him. We have a large Irish population. And the last time SmackDown was in town, he did several special events and appearances a day or 2 before the event, building a lot of fan base here. Rey Mysterio came out to a big pop, win or lose. Who doesn't love to see Rey Mysterio? And then Hogan came out. Daniel Bryan. How is this guy not walking around with a belt on his shoulder? The crowd went nuts. My wife, who couldn't be considered a big wrestling fan, is screaming, yes, 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 yes. She kept going throughout the whole match. What the crowd was chanting. Matching what the crowd was chanting. The kid is intoxicating. He draws so much energy from an arena and delivers every bit of it back to them. Sheamus started the match and wrestled most of it. He was selling a tweaked knee and was very slow, like he had molasses in his veins. I'm not sure if the injury was legit or not, but his pace led to me to believe he was injured. It seemed very awkward. Bryan went nuts in the ring. He was all over the place, jumping, flipping, kicking, ramming, locking people up in submissions, going through the ropes upside down on his head. Is there anything else he can do or doesn't do? Everybody got into it. Rey Mysterio set Roman up for the 619, but snapped up and hit Rey with a spear before he could connect. The match is over, and there are heavy boos coming from the crowd. The hero doesn't always win anymore. Show was over. Daniel stayed in the ring and actually got the crowd going. He then got them doing various yes chants, divides the arena up, and had each half do their best. Back and forth, he was like a conductor in an orchestra. He can make music with a crowd, very fun. Then they announced the main event, the dark match. Wyatt's come out, and it was Bray versus Bryan. Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan, a pretty good match. It's incredible that Bryan can put on two legit matches consecutively. At the end, the other Wyatt stole the ring, and it ended in a DQ. Further upsetting the crowd, but out came the predicted cavalry, Rey and Sheamus. They cleaned house, hit their finishers, and sent all of us home happy. All three walked the crowd afterwards, signing autographs, taking pictures, and with disabled kids, shaking hands, and the like. It's nice to see them put the time in, and after the show, instead of running backstage into their rental cars. Very classy and very appreciated. All in all, I would say a very solid quality show. A big disappointment was no CM Punk or Big Show. Card subject to change, so they say, and that's more than acceptable considering injuries, storylines, etc. But you advertise a megastar like Punk, it'd be nice if you came through or at least explain why you didn't. We were supposed to get a Punk versus Shield handicap match for the Dark event, a very common and overplayed main event, but we expected it and were denied. My poor kids made signs and bought CM Punk merchandise and were disappointed he wasn't there. Though our main event with Bray and Bryan was better than the one advertised, I expect a lot out of the WWE. Has spent what amounts over $1,000 a year on their products and tickets. WrestleMania 29 last year took $1,000 out of all by myself. It's a serious part of my family budget, and I expect a quality product and quality experience. Tonight fulfilled that hope, but it could have been better. I do not expect everything to go my way, but when you have the WWE Universe giving you blatant clues about which direction you should take about what product they want you to buy, Daniel Bryan is the most obvious case. You can't ignore them forever. Or maybe you can. They've been doing it fantastically for many years. Thank you for the excellent show tonight. I look forward to watching it on TV and when you come back to Toledo. In a second report, it's going to be very brief. Thanks to .NET reader Steve Pastor. They arrived at the arena at 5:50 with doors scheduled to open at 6. It was about 6:15 when they finally let them in. The crowd was a little bit pleaser with the temperature being 0 degrees and the wind chill in the negative 20s. There's a little bit different between the two reports. Very good crowd, nearly a sellout. The area holds The arena holds 8,200 for hockey. It was way better than the small crowd for the last SmackDown taping, which I believe was in 2012. At the taping that there was a section tarped off, I only saw a few empties on the hard camera side. The Shield started to show off in the ring bickering. Seth Rollins talked down Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. Then they focused on the Wyatt family. They issued a challenge to the Wyatts. Vicky Guerrero came out to Vicky Heat. She started to book the match only to be interrupted by Triple H. Hunter tried to dissuade the Shield from going after the Wyatts. The Shield demanded Triple H book them in a match against the Wyatt family at Elimination Chamber. And he complied, if that's what you want. Match number 1, Antonio Cesaro defeated Dolph Ziggler in an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Pretty basic Ziggler match. Cesaro did the swing, but only 6 or 7 revolutions. Match number 2, Fandango defeated Xavier Woods. It was an actual match, even though it had dance off written all over it. Woods entered with the Funkadactyls and R-Truth. As Truth cleared Fandango after the match and faces danced while Woods sold his injuries. Woods had inherited the full Brodus Clay entrance, which is mostly the Funkadactyls and no Woods himself music. Ryback and Curtis Axel beat the Primetime Players. Fast match. Young was in the whole time. O'Neal looked at Young in disgust after the match and then gave "I'm a loser" by association talk and then beat down Darren Young for the heel turn. Primetime Players are split up now. The Wyatts offered a warning to the Shield by video. I can't do it justice, but it was good. Luke Harper spoke. First time I've ever heard him talk. Match number 4, Christian defeated Jack Swagger in an Elimination Chamber qualifying match. Not a huge reaction for a returning Christian. Good back and forth match. Zeb got in Swagger's face after the match and gave him a earful. Tension builds between the two. As you didn't get the result in the previous report, you got it in this one. Kofi Kingston defeated Damien Sandow. Nothing special. I was distracted by everyone in my section buying pizza from the concession guy. Match number 6. Cody Rhodes defeated Road Dogg. The Outlaws did the full entrance routine. Crowd played along. Goldust accompanied Cody. The brothers cleared the Outlaws after the match. And no friction between Cody and Goldust. Match number 7. The Shield defeated Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, and Rey Mysterio. Roman Reigns won by pinning Mysterio as Reigns destroyed Rey with a spear as Rey was going for the 619. Good action throughout the match. Very fast paced. Hard to recall all the moments. Bryan was hot every time he entered the match. The Shield, Sheamus, and Rey cleared the arena and the taping appeared to end at that point. And then the lights went out as the Dark Mates match main event. Wyatt's entrance played. Rey and the boys appeared on the Titantron. We're here. And the Wyatts made their entrance. Lillian Garcia announced this is the main event. Daniel Bryan defeated Bray Wyatt by an apparent disqualification. Short but solid performance by both guys. Bryan was about to finish Bray only to be interrupted by Harper and Rowan. The beatdown began as Sheamus and Rey came back to make the save. We hit the road at this point. Bryan's music played the cheers as we went through the doors. The crowd was responsive, but not overly hot. Toledo always seems to play it by the book and boo the bad guys and cheer the good guys. Tonight was no different, other than the Wyatt family and the Shield getting mixed reactions. The yes chant didn't really take off until Bryan's match. I didn't see as much Cena gear as I have at past events. Daniel Bryan was a man everybody came to see. Solid night, well worth the $35 I paid for my ticket. And he said the biggest pops was Bryan. Not even close. Sheamus, Rey, the Wyatts, Roman Reigns, Triple H, and the New Age Outlaws all got positive reactions. Most heat, of course, Vicky Guerrero by a mile, and the Shield got a mixed reaction. No one else really garnered any heat, or very much heat at all. And that will conclude my SmackDown results and spoilers for this week. Thanks and peace out.